Okay, hopefully there we go. Got magic. I am. First of all, that's embarrassing. Secondly, my bad, you guys. My apologies. That was so headphones went out on me. Luckily for me, I'm off the clock. So and there's a CVS down the street from the job, so I had to run over there and hurry up, buy the headphones. Look impatient. The guy in front of me, shout out to the older white gentleman that was in front of me, let me skip him. He was just, go ahead, man. I was like, all right, thank you. All because I looked impatient as hell. Right? All right, all right, all right. We're here. All right. I'm sorry about that, y'all. Not on purpose. Right? Okay. Now, Miss Marcia C. Inhorn, right? Now, first of all, where's my manners? Where's my intro? Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in, right? Okay. Um, so Dr. T covered this. He covered the article. I went and watched the interview. So the interview is the first link. Um, and this is a PhD. She spent some years out of the country, a good little while out of the country, studying infertility, studying different things going on in the Middle East, came back to the States, and somehow got involved with studying the infertility thing. And so, like Dr. T. Hassan Johnson said, and once again, shout out to Dr. T. Hassan Johnson, what she started seeing and saying was that, and we'll just say Dr. Inhorn, what she started seeing was that it was not an issue of truly infertility. It was an issue of mates, right? These women were having issues meeting mates on their air quotes level, right? On their level, quote unquote. And so this is not, once again, exclusive to Black women. As a matter of fact, what she said was the group of people that was overrepresented, the group of people that overrepresented the sample were Asian women, specifically South Asian women, but also Jewish women, which, wow, okay, interesting. Of course, they spoke about how it's expensive the fertility treatments were, or and freezing your eggs were, all of the other things. She went into some detail on this interview, and I actually really appreciate that. What she finds is that very educated women, who are goal oriented and about their careers, and what these women were telling her was, it's not like I wasn't attempting to date or that I wasn't dating when I was, going through college, university, and attempting to get these advanced degrees. It's that, either I couldn't meet men on my same level, I couldn't meet men that were taking school seriously, I couldn't meet men, and now that I'm a bit older and more established, I don't meet men that want to be fathers and want to be husbands, right? And some of these women lamented that. One of the statements that stood out to me was her saying that at least one of the young women, or women, asked, maybe I should have, stayed with my college boyfriend. Huh. If you're making a comment like that, then maybe y'all broke up for something dumb. Maybe you broke up with him for something dumb. Possibly, maybe. I'm just saying. Look, I'm going to try my hardest, because y'all know where Mr. Z want to go with this. Oh, y'all know where Mr. Z want to go with this. But I'm going to try my hardest not to make fun and poke fun. What I will say is the way Miss Dr. Marcia was, the way she was speaking about egalitarianism is not the way Mr. Z thinks about egalitarianism. This concept that women have, including educated women, once again, Dr. Richard Reeves, do you get it yet? That they're going to meet a man that's on their level or above, even though they have advanced degrees, even though we know men are not going to college, The ones that are dropping out. The ones that are not going to get advanced degrees. And then the ones that do have advanced degrees, why would they ever settle down at an early age when they know they have the pick of the litter of the women and all the women are throwing themselves at them? All of them. The educated, the not educated, the poor, the rich, the why would these men ever settle before the age of 40? Before the age of 50? Right? This concept that many educated women have, upwardly mobile women, upper middle class women have, what they consider egalitarianism, which Mr. Z disagrees, which is dating on their same level educationally or economically, and really, let's be very clear, dating above their economic and educational level. It's just not happening. And so the question is, what are these women going to do about that? See, Mr. Z jokes oftentimes and say, well, get prepared to engage in some same-sex loving relationships. Get your boxing gloves and boxing shoes ready so y'all can fight for the top. And not even, in this case, it's not even really the top 20%. And we're talking about advanced degrees and whatnot. What are we talking about? The top 15, 10% of people? 10% of men? When I say that in jest, much of that is not just in jest, it's in all seriousness. I've done the social math. When I say this is not sustainable, I say it about many things, but this is not sustainable. See, even Dr. Marcia speaks about marrying her husband, and she already had a PhD, and he didn't even have a college degree yet. Now he has a master's degree, but yet and still, she married her husband. He didn't even have a college degree yet, and she already had a PhD. Dr. Marcia, what I'm saying to you is, these other women, and you're an older woman, you're a more seasoned woman, these other women, white, black, Latino, Asian, or otherwise, are like, yeah, no, we'll pass. And there's nothing wrong with that. But y'all got to socialize the women to eat the consequences. Like I stress this to FD Signifier, to Scott Galloway, to Dr. Richard Reeves. And I think, obviously Scott Galloway, NYU professor. So I'm guessing Dr. Scott Galloway also. It's not a matter of whether we're socializing the men. The men on top understand that they might be the financial breadwinner, and not by no $5,000, by $15, $20, $30, $40, $50, $100,000. Men on top understand that that might be a possibility. The women on top, they don't even want to consider it. And that's because this society has done an absolutely horrible job at socializing the women on what equality and egalitarianism actually looks like. Not what N.M. Hawkins was talking about in my comments a few days ago. Not what Yana Bean was talking about in my comments a few days ago. Not what these women are talking to Dr. Marcia about. No, what egalitarianism really look like. That means that some women are going to have to be the breadwinners in their relationships. And not, well, I'll be the breadwinner because I know in 5 or 10 years, no. For life. Ooh, that hurt, don't it? Ooh, it hurt. It hurt. It burns. It burns. All right, then do what y'all already do. Divorce them dudes. Or don't even get married to them. Well, you're already doing that. Right? And y'all know what Mr. Z want to say. It's kind of sad. All this does is emphasize what Mr. Z has been saying pretty much since y'all heard me start speaking. It's not the men and the boys. We actually did a pretty good job over the past 4. Actually, we might have done too good of a job on getting the men to be okay with women earning more than them, being more educated than they are, um, um, just kicking ass and taking names, even though we understand that much of that is just rhetoric. I'm not even getting into that. But let's say all of the all of the rhetoric and propaganda is real. Women are just kicking ass and taking names and starting businesses and buying homes and getting educated way above their male counterparts. Okay, cool. And we have done a pretty good job on socializing the men to be okay with that and not to be some misogynist, sexist monsters, particularly in the black community. And what you see is on the other end, we haven't really done a good job on socializing women to accept their newfound influence, power, etc., etc. Right? We have not done a good job on socializing the women to accept this newfound power, influence, economic power, to the point where, understand, the most basic biological function ever that human beings have been doing for at least 200 to 250,000 years. Educated women are having a difficult time doing. Huh. Because they're looking for someone equally yoked that's earning more than them. Let's be very clear. Let's cut the crap, please. Because we have an honest conversation for once when it comes to men and women. These women might have out-educated themselves right out of the dating field. And a couple of these women have said they only had one serious relationship their entire lives. So you're talking about a 36, 37, 38, and Mr. Z told y'all this before, 40-year-old, 42-year-old that only had one. And let's say Mr. Z's taking their word for it. They only had one serious relationship in their entire life. Or a handful of serious relationships their entire life. That doesn't mean that they weren't engaging in an adult activity, but okay, we'll take their word for it. The way these people talk about egalitarianism and being in loving, fulfilling, etc., type of loving, fulfilling relationships that are egalitarian, and no, because men here earn more than me, right? Men still here earn more than me. Maybe be as educated as me, but earn more than me, and preferably pay all the bills, right? Maybe men and women have two different ideas of what egalitarianism means. Possibly that's the answer. And so Dr. Marcia says multiple times that maybe something we have to investigate is why so many men are, not taking relationships seriously, not going to school and getting educated. And this is a trend that we see starting in the 1970s, or with feminism. And the answer is just screaming in her face. Why would these men do that? I think we really miss how catty some of these women are, PhD or not. How mean some of these women are, PhD or not. How much some of these women are assholes, PhD or not. You think that any man, educated or not, wants to come home to an asshole just because she has a PhD and a little bit of status? You think men care about that? Once again, rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. I'm a PhD. So, as I said before, this is not exactly a black woman exclusive issue. It is not, right? For the accomplished, educated black women. By the way, where all you swirlers and divestors at? Let's spend a few minutes because y'all know Mr. Z like to go here all the time. Let's spend a few minutes addressing y'all. Where y'all at? Because like I said, the women that were overrepresented in her study, I don't know why I can't get that word out, were Jewish women and Asian women. You know, the women y'all claim got it all figured out and all together, right? What happened? See, the difference between them and many black women is that they're not as loud about the shortcomings of the men in their communities. They're not as loud. And to me and Zulu's point a few streams ago, the microphone isn't also in their face, right? The microscope isn't on the East Asian and the South Asian community and the Jewish community the way it is on the black community. That is also true. That is true. And with that, they're also not as loud. Right? And by the way, what was also is this is not exclusive to America, all over the developed world. Of course, as I've said before, and I'm happy to be sitting next to BGS on this too, y'all have not socialized the women to accept this newfound influence and power. It is not the men. Mr. Z has said, jokingly and not so jokingly, the women throw temper tantrums when they can't get or keep the type of men they think they deserve, the men that they want, their ideal man. And some of them put their vagina on ice. In other words, they're not going to have sex. Cool. They want to be celibate. But what we find out here is that some of them have to put their eggs on ice. Yes, yes, I am. Harambe. Yes, I am. And Harambe says, you're giving them an excuse for slandering their men. And I'm telling them, yeah, how's that working for them though? The shaming tactics will not work. You're going to have to do for men the way you've done for women over the past 4 and 5 decades. This system's gonna, there is no other way. Dear technocrats, dear politicians, dear sociologists, dear demographers, you are going to have to do for the men in the West the way you've done for the women in the West, in developing countries over the past 4 and 5 decades. There is no other way. Right? Or you could continue to watch as your daughters street fight for the top 10, 20% of men. Right? You can watch that. You can let me know how that works. Right? Or you could watch so many of your daughters remain single. Right? For years and possibly decades. So what we hear from Miss Dr. Marcia also is some 61% of 18 to, I think she said, 35-year-olds are unpartnered. Right? Some 60 some odd percent. I think she said 61. Huh. Right? Now, the air at which the Miss Dr. Marcia, I'm sorry, I keep on wanting to say Miss Dr. Marcia was speaking was that it wasn't fair. And some of the women that she interviewed that actually could afford to go through with this treatment of freezing their eggs were speaking about their friends and their siblings who didn't have that type of money to do that and how it wasn't fair, right? Yeah, Anubis partnered. Yeah, right? But how it wasn't fair and what you heard and what was implied and actually it seems like at least once or twice said was that maybe this should be covered under health insurance, women freezing their eggs, right? And that women should highly consider their fertility, especially when they get into their 30s, right? We have a major issue in this society with coming to terms with women empowerment and what it really looks like. And there are some ugly parts of women empowerment that women are not willing to accept. There are some less than glamorous parts of women empowerment that women are not willing to accept. Whether they articulate it well, whether they have the vocabulary and they can speak with some nuance, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is I have this money, I have this status, and where's my man on my level or above? And that's not actually how egalitarianism works, not societally, right? So many of these women have put their eggs on ice, and it's men's fault. And as Dr. T said, it was framed as if it's men's fault. It's not fair that these women spent so many years in college and university and taking their careers seriously and their education seriously. And on the other end of that are men that can actually be in relationship with them, but are being Peter Pans, right? They call it Peter Pan syndrome, right? It's not fair that there's men that are sitting in their mom's basement playing video games. It's not fair that the baller dudes are out there having fun and they're not settling down for another 10, 15 years. It's not fair. Who said life was fair? Number one. And number two, is it really not fair? What did you think was going to come with female empowerment? What did you think was going to come with equality? What did you think was going to come with egalitarianism? Yes, Mr. Z is that bold enough to say that to the PhD. Y'all think Mr. Z wouldn't say that to Dr. Marcia to her face? Maybe, maybe I gotta relook. I have to look up what egalitarianism mean again because maybe I got it wrong. Right? Societally, and these women are throwing a fit because they're graduating with PhDs and Esquire behind their name and doctor in front of their name, and they're earning some good money and they're looking for men. Let's be very clear that earn more than them. Let's be honest. And they're throwing a fit because they're not meeting those men in abundance, and the men that they do meet that are in that space financially are having fun. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? And so it's not fair, God. It's not fair. It's not fair. Right? For those of you that remember the clip of Black young lady crying to the black judge about how it's not fair. It's not fair because the brother didn't want to marry her, and she bought him the ring, and she said, marry me, desperate as all hell, acting like he wasted her time. That's these women. What did we think? It's not, it's like it's somewhat of a rhetorical question, but it kind of isn't. What did we think was going to come with equality and egalitarianism? Ladies, y'all wanted the positions, y'all got them. Y'all wanted the education, you got it. You wanted the money, you got it. You wanted upward mobility that wasn't dictated by your relationship to a man, you got it. But on the other end of that, maybe at some point you might outpace men, or men might just say, you know what, yeah, you got that, go ahead, you got that, right? This is what comes with it. What is so difficult? How is this difficult to understand? How is this different? And by the way, as Dr. Marcia said, and Mr. Z predicted, and so did BGS and the nameless protagonist, and just about all of us, quite frankly. Dr. Marcia said, and it's going to get worse for Gen Z. And there you go. Gen Z women, look out. Dear Gen Z women, look out. Shout out to all you black Gen Z women. I guess y'all gonna be eating your ice cream, have your rose toy in the dresser drawer next to you, in the nightstand next to you, while you watch Lifetime movies and you listen to Chrissy and Yanni in Paris and Cynthia G and Lexus Exodus and Mahogany Pink and Shura Seven and hashtag Black Women and Chris Logic and Divested Zealot, etc., etc. Oh, how did I forget Crystalline Karazin and the rest of them in Themis tell you how crappy black men are, while you know secretly, because you had sex with the white dude, that the white dudes are on the same thing, and so are the Latino dudes, because you had sex with the Latino dude too. Right? Right? Huh. So for all you Gen Z that get off on listening to Chrissy them while they tell you to go date out, that's why Ed and now Mr. Z also say, yeah, go date out. Because we know what it looked like. And secretly, in the back of your mind, y'all kind of know what it looked like too. Good hunting. Right? Did Rogish really say that? I missed that. I'm still in that, wherever Rogish is. Right? And K Tut says, feminism is the coldest piece of pimping ever produced, Rogish son. Right? What did y'all think was going to come with equality and egalitarianism? Jesus Christ. And Dr. Dr. Marcia was speaking like, the men in the Middle East, 90% of them get married, or 90% of Middle Easterners get married, and they take this very seriously, and they all want to be family men. And she's speaking like she has no clue why men in the West and developing country, well, excuse me, in developed countries and in Western countries would shy away from marriage. Maybe it's that insane divorce rate. Maybe. Maybe it's the fact that in that insane divorce rate, 70 to 80% of women file for divorce. Maybe the fact that if you're married to a college educated woman, that shoots up to 90%. Maybe. Maybe, just possibly, that might be the reason why. Maybe that's why so many men in the West, in the developing countries, are not getting married. Possibly, right? Maybe, maybe it's that women, and you, even Miss Marcia, excuse me, I don't know why I want to say Miss Marcia so much, but to show respect to her credentials, even Dr. Marcia towards the end was speaking about women reconsidering. Essentially, let's be very clear. Dr. Marcia said the same thing Iyanla Vanzant said to Ebony K. Williams, and the same thing Anne Marie Slaughter said to well, just said to her crowd, right? Women are going to have to reconsider all of this. Y'all are saying it in little. Look, no, there wasn't a place over the past. Everywhere you went, at least as a black man, everywhere you went, you got the message. You got the message. Not to be jealous of black women in their education, not to be jealous of black women in their stick to it witness, in their drive, in their motivation. Everywhere you went, everywhere you go now. But when we speak to the women about their concepts of trying to fit feminism and patriarchy in the same space at the same time, we speak to them in the softest voice. And we say it in different places where women don't frequent, or not enough women frequent, better yet. Let's say it like that, right? That's how we say it, right? We were screaming off of blowhorns. We put it in movies. We put it in music. It was in television shows. Don't be jealous of your sisters. Don't be jealous of their education. Don't be jealous of their money. Don't be jealous of their position. But when it's time to speak to the women about the end of patriarchy, we murmur, we whisper, we hit them with the softest voice, and it's not a steady drum beat. It's not everywhere they go. It's a blink and you'll miss it side comment, right? Huh. So shout out to all of you sisters that talk about no struggle love. Yeah, you're right. It won't be no struggle love because there won't be any love. You're right. No struggle love because there won't be any love. Huh. So shout out to Dr. T. Hassan Johnson for covering this. I definitely have to follow the story also. And so what we find here once again, successful, highly educated, advanced degreed women freezing their eggs, not because of fertility issues, but because of aging, because they don't have a spouse. Huh. While Dr. Marcia was speaking, she also spoke about how many of these women feel embarrassed being in spaces that everything about the fertility kind of trials and tribulations assume that your partner, that you're married. And comments will be made, well, your husband can help you with this, or your partner can help you with that. And these women are single as hell and they feel depressed even more that they're reminded that they don't have a spouse. Well, whose fault is that? Right? And yeah, Mr. Donnie Mac, we spoke about it already. And Mac says, excuse me, Mr. Donnie Mac says, I just saw a trailer on YouTube for a Color Purple remake as a musical. Yeah, we spoke about that a little while ago. Right? Whose fault is that, people? So we're not speaking about someone who's infertile. We're speaking about people who have their standards. Nothing wrong with that. We don't begrudge women their standards. We might make fun sometimes. Some Most of the times it's just straight up delusion. But we don't begrudge black women their standards. Fine. They have their standards. They feel like their standards haven't been met as of yet, and they're reaching the end of their fertility window, right? And they're reaching the end of their fertility window. Huh. So they resort to freezing their eggs, hoping to meet someone still who would marry them and they can, go through the process. Wow. Now what also is said um is that sometimes the parents help out, the fathers help out to fund this. It's about $15,000 or something like that per. I can't remember how they said it, but it was $15,000 per whatever situation, right? And this is the environment that we're in right now. So we're not even in the environment where educated women are freezing their eggs because of fertility issues. They're freezing their eggs because they can't find the man that meets their exact delusion, right? Who's Oh, by the way, something I need to stress because this was said, and y'all know Mr. Z couldn't let this one slide. Dr. Marcia said, these women want to meet someone who's also not intimidated by their education, or let me be very clear, at least in the black community, right? Let me speak more for black men. I don't know about white men or Latino men or Asian men. Black men are not intimidated by black women's education. These mothers and sometimes fathers are raising assholes, and black men are not with it. Let me be very clear. If your daughter is Ebony K. Williams, oh yeah, she's staying single. She's gonna be single for a while. It's not Nobody's intimidated by her strong will. No one's intimidated by her education. No, you raised an asshole. She's mean, she's catty, she's condescending. Yeah, you could keep that. Have fun with no grandchildren. Yikes. Especially for black men. We have a better concept of egalitarianism than any of these people do. We are not intimidated by black women and their education, and we definitely intimidated by no white woman and her education, or Latina or Asian. That's not the problem. They're mean. They're catty. They're condescending. They're delusional. And then you want a man to marry that. Let me make sure I say this. The men on these women's level have too many options, so they're not obviously not going along with that. And the men that are not on these women level, they only see these women for one thing. And when I say level, I mean educational or financial, and really educational because many of these men earn just as much, if not more, than the women. Dr. Marcia, there are other things that are as important, if not more important, definitely more important than these women's education or even their earning potential or even how much they earn now. That education might not have made up for a character flaw. And yes, women can have character flaws too. I know, sacrilegious to say out loud, right? I know. These women can be mean as hell. And I say this over and over again. I know people kind of throw off being mean. No. If this is a person you are supposed to be in a committed relationship with, potentially marriage for forever with, and they're an asshole, and they think that's okay because of a degree, because of how many years they spent in somebody's university. Oh no. And for one of at least one of the young ladies to say, well, maybe I should have stayed with my college boyfriend or my ex-boyfriend from college, that means that, and we're assuming that she's the one who broke up with him. That means that you're kind of low-key admitting you might have broke up with him for no reason or for something minor, right? And so let me pause right here for a second and read this. And Harambe says the scream he's not on my level, excuse me, they scream he's not on my level, but they let in many class levels of men smash while so-called waiting for that ideal guy. And we know that's a thing. We know that's a thing. And I won't even be in this part of the conversation. I won't even begrudge them that. I'm not even going to bring that up. Fine, right? Fine. You having sex with whoever, and you waiting for the ideal guy. Fine. But how is that working for you? Y'all gonna learn. Y'all gonna learn. Y'all gonna learn. Let me say it. Y'all gonna learn because this indifference from men are not. Y'all understand for the most part, the vast majority of men are not INCELSs. They're not trying to go to malls and do something horrific. They're not trying to go to schools and do something horrific. Like that is sample negligible. The vast majority of men that feel a certain way about the dating market or whatnot, you know what they're doing? They might be on social media acting a fool, but for the most part, they're just not participating. And look at the chaos that's causing. They're just not participating. Imagine that sitting on your hands, causing all this type of chaos. Imagine that. You're not walking up to women in your personal life and real life being disparaging, right? You're not being particularly mean to them. You're being indifferent. You're worried about you and your own life. They really underestimate how much men could be minimalist. How if a man doesn't have a wife and kids, he could really shrink down his finances to his hobbies and enough to subsist on. They really underestimated how low men could go. I would argue most men in America could live off of $35,000 a year. If it wasn't for kids and a woman, and if his hobbies weren't in super expensive, $35,000 a year, definitely 40. I would argue 90% of men, 85% of men in America, if it wasn't for wife and kids, they could definitely live off of $40,000 a year. Most I would argue could live off of 35, but if I want to get damn near 90%, 85%, 40 grand a year. Right? So yes, Harambe, these women are many of them are having fun with a whole bunch of dudes. But they looking for that one guy to come through, pun intended. For this conversation is definitely pun intended. And to fulfill all of their delusional fantasies. What did people think was going to happen when you got 60-40 split in colleges and universities across the country? What did people think was going to happen? Huh. Let's pause with that. No placeholder says, and thank you for the super chat, no placeholder. No placeholder says there are two sides of an all or nothing strategy. Don't forget the nothing. And he puts the smile, the laughing emoji or the smile emoji. Yeah, yeah. And like maybe it's a man thing, but we understand calling someone's bluff and how that could go. You could call someone's bluff and they back down, which is usually the goal, right? That's usually the goal. Or you could call someone's bluff and get punched in the face. When you're playing chicken, y'all see the movies when they playing chicken with the cars and they driving the car straight onto each other? What about if neither one of them blinks, right? Mr. Z has said multiple times on his channel, do y'all even know what y'all doing to yourselves? Do you even know what you're doing to yourself? Are you even advocating for yourself correctly? So yeah, no Harambe, the all or nothing. They really, this is the thing. They think threatening God, threatening the universe, threatening men, throwing a fit, right? Throwing a temper tantrum all over social media, all over the mainstream media, telling you what they not gonna settle for, right? Even a couple years ago, even up to recently, actually, but definitely a couple years ago, they were on some. Well, if we do it this way, men won't have a choice but to step up to the level we want them to. That sound nice. That's your ego talking. Hold your wombs, ladies. Right? We're gonna make black men do this. We're gonna make y'all not making nobody do anything. Y'all are the ones that's delusional. You forgot, not the men. No placeholders 100% correct. When you say all or nothing, you assume or you hope that you get the all, right? But what happens if you get the nothing? You're calling the universe's bluff. You're calling God's bluff. You're calling men's bluff. Shit, you calling other women's bluff. Because while you're over here saying, I'm not doing this unless I get a man like that, another woman comes right from behind you and undercuts you and says, yeah, I'll take him. Ask me how I know it's happening to black women right now. All these black, I'm not dealing with this or that. Some working class Latina come out of nowhere. I'll take them. Right? Some regular ass white woman come out of nowhere. I'll take them. Huh. That all or nothing. Yeah, I'm with no placeholder on that one. Y'all talking real crazy. Y'all think y'all calling our bluff. I ain't settling for this. I don't struggle love for that. Okay, that sound nice. And clearly, as we can see, that's not exclusive to black women. Shout out to you white women, you Latinas, you Asian, you Jewish women. Y'all all on the same thing. Well, as Mr. Z said, here's some boxing gloves. Here's some boxing shoes. Let's get ready to rumble. Head with the top 20% of dudes that y'all all want. Have fun. Go at it. And we didn't even count the dudes y'all don't find attractive. We didn't count the dudes y'all think have some type of character flaw you don't like, right? And Anubis, thank you for the cash app. Thank you very much. Right? We did not count any of those guys. We're really talking about the top 20% in finances. We didn't even get into height yet. For those of you with height requirements. Once again, like I said, looks, interest, and hobbies. Some of you lefties don't want to be with a conservative. Some of you conservatives don't want to be with a lefty. All right. Y'all are, when Mr. Z said this, the social math, I wasn't joking and I was not pulling that. That wasn't me guessing around. I wasn't pulling that out of my ass. I wasn't pulling that out of my rear end. Y'all have just simply not done the social math. And it's fascinating to see PhDs like, oh, what is happening here? What? Dr. Marcio, seriously? No, men said, no, women, y'all got this. You said you wanted, you got it. You never thought, shout out to the brother, the Raj report. You never thought that men would become this indifferent this fast. Y'all thought that men were so vagina starved, they would never sit on their hands and say, yeah, or throw their hands up, whichever one you want to use. Whichever analogy you want to use, whichever example you want to use. Either sit on their hands or throw their hands up. I said it before. I used this example, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, for those of us that saw that movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. When they both got into the house at the same time and they started shooting at each other and fighting each other and whatnot, who put their gun down first? Was it not Brad Pitt? And who was the one that was like, come on, come on? Wasn't it not Angelina? It was funny because it was just a movie. But you never thought that men would say, fine, you got it. Take that. You want it, you got it. You want the middle management jobs? Fine. You want the education? Fine. You want the status? Fine. Understand, the baller dudes don't want to settle down, and you don't want to settle for the men you think you're better than. And then the men that you think you're better than, when you finally decide to come around, they resent you because they're not going to let you settle for them now. Any man worth his salt ain't gonna be your consolation prize. Dr. Thunderson or Jergens with their hands, right? And better uses, let's pause right there. And better uses, intimidating equals black men should accept my abuse, but be submissive, Brad or Miguel, bro. Right? Dr. T did a great man. Look, Dr. T, shout out to you for covering this. Whoever sent it to you, you said it was a colleague. Shout out to that person. I listened to Dr. T's entire segment about this, and I went and I listened to to Dr. Marcia's entire interview about this, right? And it's tragic. Maybe that's the word I should use, but that's a better word than sad. It's tragic. Educated, upwardly mobile. You don't actually have a fertility issue. Your issue is that you can't find men that you actually appreciate, and we're supposed to feel sympathy for that? Are you serious? Think about that. We're talking about mainly the professional managerial class of women, upwardly mobile. You can afford to spend 15, 30 plus $1,000 on freezing your eggs. So you got the money, and what Dr. Marcia was saying, these women were saying they were able to touch this money and not skip a beat. For some of them, they were actually not all. Some of them had to save and whatnot, but some of these women were able to. So money is no issue. So let me get this right: money is not an issue, or you got papa and mama's helping you with paying for this. So I'm guessing that you're running in good circles. You're running in nice affluent circles, and you can't find a man on your level. Screw's just talking about black women on this one. Actually, this part is probably doesn't concern many black women. White women, Latina women, Asian women. What you think you can't get it to? What you think Mr. ZB only going out on the sisters? No. I'm equal opportunity over here. Y'all can't meet dudes on your level? Asian women. Asians. Wait a minute. Asian women. The model minorities. South Asians. Wait a minute. South Asians? So that means there's a couple of Indians in there? You mean the people that's earning 120 on average a year? I think that might have been household, but still. Y'all struggling? Oh. Right? This is insane. This like there's no other word. There's really no other word. You're educated, you're upperly mobile, right? And Dr. Marcia lists off all the major cities y'all already know. On the East Coast, she said much of her research was on the East Coast, the Miamis, the New Yorks, et cetera, all the major cities. And these understand what Dr. Marcia is saying, and what these women were saying to Dr. Marcia. They live in major cities and can't find men on their level. Jewish women in New York, in Miami, struggling to find men on their level. Asian women struggling, and mainly South Asian, but she also mentioned Japanese and Chinese and South Korean, right? Huh. We're not dealing with y'all mean ass daughters anymore. We're not. Y'all were able to burn some of the older Xers. Millennial men are not signing up for the deal. Gen Z men are not going to sign up for the deal. They're not. Screw your daughter and her education. We're not doing it. We're not. We go on a couple of dates with her. We might pipe. She sound mean. She sound condescending. She talk to the waitress all type of crazy. She's hyper materialistic. Second, third date, she talking about houses and marriage. We're out the door. We do not care about her PhD and her Esquire. We don't care that she pulled up in that baby Benz, maybe even a nicer Benz. We don't care. Your daughter come out her mouth crazy. We might want to put something in her mouth. But other than that, and your daughter's already telling us they're not trying to spend they're not trying to spend their money anyway. So what does her education mean for me? Right? Sorry, did I say it the wrong way? You said upwardly with a star. Did I say it the wrong way? Or something that you said that you're adding upwardly to? I don't know. Right? Y'all gonna keep on running. So let me get this right. I went in on Yanni with this, Chrissy with this, FD Signifier with this, all in a week because of the Ebony K. Williams. And now we talking to Dr. Marcia and whoever she was interviewing about this is what come with equality. This is actually what comes with egalitarianism. See, y'all want egalitarianism in the home without it actually existing in society? How is this supposed to work? Ladies, y'all wanted to go get your degrees, y'all got them. And we don't begrudge you that. I'm when I say that, like, I'm really not trying to be funny when I say I'm not against women going to get their education. I'm not trying to be snarky or funny or some backwards way of that's what you get. No, I mean that. But if your education now causes you to say, all right, I have my master's, I need a man that has his master's also, and then men are not even getting as many bachelors, now what? Now what? Then on top of that, you saying no struggle love. So you're not even willing to be like Dr. Marcia did and meet her husband and marry him, and he doesn't even have a college degree, and she has a PhD, and now he has a master's degree, and she worked with him. Y'all say y'all not even doing that, so fine. And Eric Denman comes in with the situational equality and situational patriarchy, right? And Indigo Flow says, "Ding, ding, ding, baby Ben's tax on OG Trail," right? And Better Use says they don't realize the rarity. Only 8% of the population has master's degrees, brother. You know, let's only 8%. Oh, it's closer to 9%, 8.8. So 9% of Americans are millionaires, and we already know that's not liquid. That's hard assets and everything. That's if you liquidate them in their life, you could sign them a check for. And I've said this before: 1 million, 1.1, 1.5, 2 million, 1.8 million, something like that. These people just don't. Fundamentally, what it seems like is Americans don't know numbers, but black women and women in general just don't know numbers in America. They just don't know. They just don't know. And I would argue the men don't know the numbers neither, but you live it so much that you have a gist of it, even if you don't know directly. The women don't have to adhere to that. They just don't. I said it to you guys before when I was in Selkis Ray's comment section, and I blew up the comment section by simply saying your average American man earns 40 or less, and I blew up the comment section with that. They couldn't accept it. How could you? What world did you think you were living in? What country did you think you were living in? Y'all watch too much TV, too much social media, and yeah, okay, maybe a couple of y'all, the local D boy took you on a date 1 or 2 times before he smashed, or the aspiring rapper spent his tax return over 2 months on you, and so you think he was really balling out of control. When we say y'all are delusional, we're not joking. Y'all are delusional. It's not an insult. It's an accurate descriptor, right? It's an accurate description. It's not an insult. When we call you delusional, we mean it, right? To think you live in the third most populous country on the planet and you struggling to find mates, man. And let's pause right here. I know I'm in a dead zone. Y'all give me 1 second. I gotta do boyfriend stuff. I'll be right with you guys in about 3. No, that's all right. Y'all give me 1 second because I know the reception here is horrible. So y'all give me 1 second as I attempt to get in a better place. Just give me a second. Let me get in a better spot for the internet. And to go sit, excuse me, Everglades Wireless. right? Okay, y'all should hear me better now. I should be good now. So for those of you that are just not coming in, we are covering, and Dr. T, I think he covered this maybe 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, um, which is a segment from the Insider. So he actually read the article from the Insider. I watched his segment speaking about Dr. Marcia, excuse me, and her speaking about one of the struggles for many women, and it seems like it's an increasing struggle, is not infertility as much as it is, you know, mating, meeting the men that they feel like are on their level, right? That's their issue. So Dr. T covered it, and I thought it was important that I covered. And the book is called Motherhood on Ice, right? And it's speaking, or is it the mating gap, motherhood on ice, the mating gap, or the mating gap, motherhood on ice, right? And the links for the interview and Dr. T covering the article are both in my description box. The first link will be the interview with Dr. Marcia, and then the second link will be the Dr. T covering the article. And obviously, Dr. T, so he did a bang up job. He did a great job. You know, something I didn't cover earlier is Dr. Marcia is saying these women are looking for eligible, educated, and equal partners. That silence is on purpose, by the way. Eligible, educated, and equal partners. Yawn, right? So many of the women that are having this procedure done, where they're freezing their eggs, are single or in troubled relationships, right? Dr. Marcia says how many of these women were taught by their parents, their mothers, that they can have it all. Apparently not. Definitely not it all at the same time. So yeah, go figure, right? That was something that Dr. Marcia definitely stressed. Um, yeah, as I already covered, they want men that are not intimidated by them. At least for black men, I would argue we're not intimidated by you. You just might be an asshole, right? One of the complaints that many of these women have is that men do not want to settle down. Why would they want to settle down? Particularly in this environment, I think I need to stress that and emphasize that as much as possible. The question needs to be, why would men with a 50 plus, it's 50% divorce rate, right? Which, by the way, the divorce rate is going down because the marriage rate is going down because we priced young people out of marriage. That's a whole different conversation, right? Not only that, we're counting divorce. We're not counting separated, right? My apologies, y'all. We're counting divorce. We're not counting separated, right? We're not counting sexless marriages. Those two play a factor in the current environment of why so many young men under the age of 40 are not interested in being married, right? Why would they? And Dr. Thunder says that's a low stat Z. Over 40 years, it's 67%. Jesus Christ. And you wonder why men would get married. First of all, we already know that we turn marriage into a exercise in classism, right? So definitely why would working class, and then why would elite men want to get married? I mentioned the stats yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, but let's go through it again. American Enterprise Institute, which is a conservative think tank. American Enterprise Institute, this is their numbers. 26% of poor Americans are married, 39% of middle class, 56% of upper middle class and above. And remember that those numbers, I think they put those numbers out. They published that back in like 2017, maybe 2018. And remember, that's still with a whole lot of boomers being around. If you control for just millennials and Gen X, what would it look like? Right? And I see you in there, Gold P. Pause for the cause. Y'all already know what Mr. Z is going to say. Gold Professor was the first person to suggest that Mr. Z start his channel. So y'all send all y'all hate mail to Gold P. Right? So, I'm not going to belabor this too much longer. Yeah, but I just wanted to back up what Dr. T was saying. Um, Ladies, this is actually what comes with egalitarianism. This is what actually comes with egalitarianism. What did we think, right? And what does egalitarianism mean? Um, let's make sure we get it right. Let's make sure we get it right, people. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. The doctrine that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. All people are equal. All people are equal. Huh. So you're not dating the bus driver because why not? Ooh, Mr. Z. You should have saw that coming. Y'all should have saw that coming. Who's truly the egalitarian group of people in the country? The men or the women? Right? The men or the women? And Eric Dedman says, Mr. Z, the Gen Z have their fathers, uncles, cousins have seen, excuse me, let's read that again. Mr. Z, the Gen Z have seen their fathers, uncles, cousins get destroyed and kids that taken away in family court. They ain't taking that deal. I get it. I get it. This is the part that so many the Dr. Marcia's, I'm telling y'all, when y'all watch that she doesn't make a mention of it. She literally, it's like there's no way you never considered, huh? Maybe the men don't want to go through with marriage because they see it as a raw deal. Possibly, huh? Right? She never considered, at least she didn't say anything to give the impression that she ever considered this. And as Eric Dedman said, Gen Z, and not just Gen Z and millennials have watched uncles and fathers and older brothers and cousins get ripped to shreds in divorce. What Dr. C said, excuse me, Dr. T said, after moving back with their parents. You imagine being 47 years old, gotta move in back with your parents because your wife ripped you to shreds in divorce, or you gotta move into an apartment and get a roommate at 43 years old, right? But you wonder why men won't sign up for that raw ass deal. and especially dealing with, probably, we're assuming, entitled, educated women on top of that. Huh. Like I said, you live in the most powerful, wealthy nation the world has ever known. And you're living on the East Coast in a major city with millions of people, right? And you can't find a mate. And you can't find a mate. And men are supposed to feel sympathetic for that. While you, by the way, say you want a man, air quotes, on your level. And men are supposed to feel sympathy. Hmm. This is what you say, right? I'm taking these pauses because I'm actually thinking about how this is supposed to work. I ask this question often, right? It's like one of my taglines. I have many, but it's one of my, how is this supposed to work? And sometimes it is a rhetorical question, and sometimes it's a genuine, honest question. How is this supposed to work? As I said in my intro, have we socialized the women for their newfound influence and power, their newfound economic power and position? Or are we going to continue to let them say egalitarian and equal, but really mean hypergamy? Are we going to continue to let them say equally yoked when they really mean hypergamy? I I make the argument that we have socialized the men far better to accept women's newfound economic power and their positionality than we have the women. We have not socialized the women to accept their own economic power and positionality and what that means for their dating life and their potential marriage or lack thereof. I make the argument that the reason why the women sound the way they do, why they're comporting themselves around society the way they are, is because we've actually done an absolutely horrible job at socializing women to accept all of what comes with being more educated than their male counterparts, at least institutionally educated, right? Potentially earning more than their male counterparts. In this country, from my understanding, 40% of women earn more than their male counterparts. We understand that there's a 60-40 split in college enrollment and university between women and men. Once again, my argument is that we have not socialized women to accept that. And now we're at the place where you have healthy women who do not actually have fertility problems running right into the very end of their fertility window with no spouse and no potential spouse. These are women that claim to want to be married, that claim to want to have be mothers, and they're freezing their eggs because they cannot meet a man. Partner with that man, marry that man, and have a child in that marriage. If we were socializing the women to understand what comes with their economic power and their social power and their influence over the past 50 years, as we've been socializing the men to not be these patriarchal monsters, right? These misogynists. If we were truly socializing the women at the same time as the men, we would not be having this conversation. And once again, this is assuming that the education of women was in good faith, the institutional education, once again, where it's assuming that this had no ulterior motives to it. Hmm. And on that note, everyone, I think I'll pause right here. Yeah, so it's actually pretty tragic. It's actually pretty tragic. This was a science from our understanding that was made for people that, for women that had fertility issues, for couples that were struggling to have children. And what we find is that in actuality, a sizable minority of the women that are engaging in this and freezing their eggs, their problem is that they're actually running out of time. But remember, we can't say that to women. You can't tell women randomly, definitely not even women of your own life. We can't tell women that they might want to consider their fertility and what that means for them in their life. Having children, raising a family, because that's some sexist, patriarchal nonsense. Hmm. Yeah. And on that note, Dr. Marcia. So this was a y'all go ahead and check out Dr. T's coverage of this. Y'all check out the actual interview. I think it was about was it an hour long, hour and some change long, something like that. It's a pretty good conversation. Dr. Marcia obviously says things that we are going to definitely disagree with in the Black manosphere. Um, yeah, but she did the research, right? And her sample, the women that she spoke to, I think it was 118 or 14, something along those lines. And what she said was the conversation just kept on coming back to essentially men failing in these women's lives, right? The men not being on their level, right? They talk about sometimes these women had recently broke up or divorced or yeah. So on that note, let's pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content, and yeah, we wow, an advanced society, 21st century. And Dr. T. Hassan Johnson is going live, you guys, so y'all check him out. Longo said, God damn it, Longo just got in. Right? And Dr. Thunder said it was 70-30 split college enrollment in the black community, right? So yeah. All right, you guys. I'm gonna end it out here. I might come in with an afternoon stream. Now this one was not so depressing. I mean, it kind of goes with some of the things that we talk about in the Black Manosphere. My afternoon stream will probably be about um the wealth transfer that's coming up as baby boomers start to pass, the money that they're leaving for some of their Xer and millennial children, and what that's going to do to black people, quite frankly. Because we know it's mainly going to be white boomers leaving money to their children, which remember, boomers didn't have as many kids, right? So, what is the housing market? What is the automobile market? What is, just buying your day to day things? What is that going to look like when you're competing against Timmy? And these are things that I've said before, but we're going to back it up with some more information. What happens when you're competing against Timmy for this house, right? Or when the market rejiggers itself to do for, you know, Karen or Becky, right? So yeah. So there's just some things to think about, right? And so we will truly pause right here. Oh, I said Dr. T. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's me. That's because Mr. Z about to doze off. Okay, so Dr. Thunder is going live. I'm sorry, Dr. Thunder. So he said, Z, I'm going live. Not T Hassan. Don't mind the conflation though. In good company, right? I'm not. My apologies, Dr. Thunder. So yeah, y'all go check out Dr. Thunder. I don't know why did I say Dr. T. Well, I was covering Dr. T's segment, right? But definitely, by the way, definitely after Dr. Thunder, y'all check out the videos in the link. I know Roger is coming up probably right after Dr. Thunder, so we have a good morning crew for you guys, right? Good morning crew, back to back to back, right? So yeah, we will pause right here truly so I can let Dr. Thunder set up his live stream and y'all file in there. Like I said, we'll pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Go check out other Black Manosphere content like Dr. Thunder. Definitely go check out other non-Manosphere content, and y'all have a great rest of y'all day. I should be coming to you guys either later on today or tonight with that segment that I want to cover about boomer transferring their wealth and what that's going to mean for the rest of us that don't have boomers to transfer wealth to us, because we might be actually low-key paying bills at the house we don't live at anymore, right? Yeah. Mr. Z the only one? No? Okay. All right. All right, you guys. Y'all have a great rest of y'all day. Mr. Z out.